Today, we're firing up the engine and breaking down one of Flesh and Blood's most inventive and explosive classes, the Mechanologist. Whether you're here for the sheer joy of boosting through your deck, the satisfaction of stringing together perfect, gear-driven plays, or you just like the idea of turning Copper into Carnage, this episode will get you locked, loaded, and ready to turbocharge your next game. We'll talk core mechanics, key cards, and the unique play style that makes Mechanologist one of the most exhilarating and sometimes unpredictable classes in Rathe. So grab your Tuckler core, polish your induction chamber, and let's get those pistons pumping. Right? I'm Will.
I'm Ning.
I'm Trevor.
I'm Evan.
And since Ning kept on correcting me about, hey, we should probably introduce ourselves, I figured I want to put a little prompt here to remind myself to.
You finally put it in the script.
I did. I tried. Sometimes I go through it. But before we go into, boosting our understanding of the Mech class, what did we learn since last week? Oh, right. A lot of stuff going on here.
Yeah.
Who wants to go first?
Look, it's just I can go first. Shelter of the Storm is busted against Syndra. That's all. I'm done.
Yeah.
I cry.
Pretty good against Runeblades too.
Yeah, I think there's also some sequencing when, like, I was playing against Verdance, and that part doesn't really matter. It was really the Shelter of the Storm, and so I had to flick knives, and then I had to throw dagger, and my hand itself was like kind of mediocre, and so I was trying to get a throw dagger in there to be able to draw a card. So I used the throw dagger, and then the dagger got flicked, but then they reacted with the Shelter of the Storm, right? So then at that point, the only thing I could really do if I wanted to was flick the other one to be able to sneak a damage in, since that would resolve before the Shelter of the Storm. But had I reversed the order, then the throw dagger actually would have gone through, and then I would have been able to draw my hand to do something else or have something arsenal. So with that one play, instead of a one card 1 or 1 card 0, it was actually a 1 card -1 because I also lost a dagger from doing it in that order. So man. Pretty good.
All right, who wants to go next?
I can go. I learned fatigue is still kind of a thing. I was playing a list my buddy sent me with Mario, and you run Eradicate and 3 Remembrance, and I was a little rusty. I haven't played Arachne Huntsman or a deck like that in a while, but it was kind of coming back to me, and some of the games felt pretty good. The ones I lost, I do think I had some ways to get over the finish line, but probably gonna try it for at least like a week or two.
Why is Mario better than Huntsman in that scenario, other than the fact that he's just always better?
You can mark them. You won't hit that often, but you'll transform into a different. I think the idea is like you'll transform into a, one of the Agents of Chaos, and all the reactions
do the ability stuff.
Yeah, most like half the reactions they work on assassin cards, and they only get like the additional bonus if it's
the +3.
It'll still work. Yeah. So it'll still work. So you buff like a contract by 3 with like a card that you don't care about.
And I'm sure the first attack at +1 with potential Gogan, if they're marked, helps with the Arachne's fatigue game.
You don't run that much stealth in this list.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you don't really use it.
What a mind trip! It's like that weird deck I saw with Levia, and it was just you don't use her shadow play at all. You just go beat.
Yeah, it's kind of like you can like bait your opponent into thinking it's something else, and then you're full fatigue.
That's funny.
It's
just funny.
That's truly the assassin way.
Yeah.
Huntsman has such little text that Mario just ends up being better than Huntsman.
A little bit, actually.
With his own cards.
That's crazy. I'm actually, so you're going to stick on this hero for a while, the Mario trick with the fatigue?
Yeah, I'll probably try it again next week, just see what happens, but, I'm not married to it or nothing.
Yeah. And Evan, how about you? How was your last week, man?
I was playing Ira. I didn't really have time to build, like, an actual deck, so I just grabbed my old Ira deck.
Sorry to interrupt.
I really want to be playing.
Evan, I gotta say, the toe beans you have brought to this channel is fantastic. Right, your dog just did a little stretch. I saw the toe beans kind of go like this. Right?
So good,
guys. I say that's our 5th cast member right there.
That's right.
Anyways, Evan, sorry to disrupt you. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, I played Ira, but I didn't have time to build anything new. I really want to build Marlin. Andrew, my buddy Andrew Lorenz. Hey, Andrew. I know you watch the show. He let me borrow his Marlin deck. That was a lot of fun, so I kind of want to build that at some point. But yeah, overall, to be honest, I am ready for a shakeup, and Guardian Mastery Pack did not give us that. So Super
Yeah.
Slam it is.
Super Slam is for. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited for Super Slam, but I'm always excited about new sets. I'll tell you now, my experience with Guardian Mastery Pack so far has been underwhelming, and I'm not usually one to criticize LSS. They usually do a fantastic job, but hey, I always say they can't all be bangers, right? So this is definitely the one to rate the 10 by. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, so I went back on Florian this week, my room play boy, and I gotta say he's performed a lot better since I knew how to play the damn thing.
Yeah, you
Funny
know
how,
what decompose works?
dude,
Yeah.
like
You read keywords?
what a game changer. Like, and then it did help that in several of my games I got maximum value on Channel Mount Heroic and Channel the Millennium Tree. They were around for 3 turns, and that's just ball busting if you had that out there for so long. And just the way my pitch deck worked. So it kind of like, and this is actually Andrew Lawrence's list, right? He ran against me, and I really liked it because it could pivot on such different dynamics halfway through the game, depending on your game strategy. He, of course, Andrew runs it better than I do, but I do get the side benefit of when I do a drastic misplay. He looks at me, shakes his head, and walks away, laughing. But this time I felt pretty good. Got the maximum value on my cards, and I can see how this deck really does shine. Not sure if I'm gonna stick with it. I might play it one more time, but I really want to I do want to play Guardian, since it's kind of topical right now before Super Slam comes out. And my boy Reinhardt just got that blue card. I know Evan, you're semi down on it, but I think it's going to fix everything. It's going to be the era of Reinhardt. You heard it here first.
That's November though, right?
In December. Oh yeah, November. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Christmas coming early right there, buddy.
That's right. That's
All
right.
right.
We're
I mean, you're
something
also
give
going to
thanks
get
for.
another brute
Mhm.
set. Super Slam is a brute set, so yeah, maybe.
Yeah, might be enough fix, but you know how sometimes they do these talents in these sets. Sometimes that really favors the talents and less so the actual class itself. That's the way they, I guess, balance it. But we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll do, of course, our set review on Super Slam, and that's going to be super fun. So, and we'll see how many. Maybe I'll dress up as a wrestler. See how that goes. All right, so this is a deep dive into the Mech class. Not my forte. I've started Mech with Teklovasen, all right, and played only Teklovasen. I did buy the Dash Armory deck. I bought the Maxx deck. So I have all the decks. I just never sat down, constructed a deck, looked at the cards. But you three geniuses, big brains in the room, you have. So I thought Mech originally came out in Welcome to Rathe. That's how I knew about it, right? But I was just so informed by my co-host. It came out in Arcane Rising. Do you want to tell me a little bit about the history of Mech? Right. Now I know Trevor, you are the Mech main, somewhat, like,
Mhm.
but everyone else has dabbled here in Mech in some form or fashion.
Yeah.
Not me. I've never played Mech.
Yeah, his nameplate Mech actually.
I played Mech on Talishard to test it out. I've never played it
Okay.
live. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Well, like I said, it's a nice way to establish credibility, fellas.
Mhm.
All right, go on, Trevor.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for history, Dash IE, she was the first mech in Arcane Rising. She was one of like the first 4 classes, or one of the first 8, or she was the first mech in one of the first 8 classes that came out in the game. And then after that, we got a few cards in Dynasty, I think, right?
I mean, we got we didn't get any Mech cards outside of expansion slot cards. So like there was Dynasty, there was Everfest, there was Crucible. So we got a good stream of Mech cards, but we did not get a second Mech hero until
that
Trevor's
was all before
favorite
my
set.
time, so I didn't know that. But yeah, Bright Lights was actually the second set that came out when I started playing, and that was an all Mech set. So that introduced Dash IO, which is another third version of Dash, Maxx, Hype Nitro, and Teklovasen.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't think we saw another Mech until High Seas, latest set with Puffin.
I've mentioned it before, but fun fact, Bright Lights is what got me into the game because Mech sounded cool, but then I was also too scared to play Mech, and so here we are, never playing a paper Mech before.
Yeah.
What's funny is I'm kind of with you. The first set I actually opened was Arcane Rising, and I felt extremely smart when I was like, wait a second, if your entire deck has boost cards, you
Just
can
go.
never miss.
Yeah.
Like legit, I thought I was a genius, and then like it's like, oh no, that's how you're supposed to do it.
Would you say, Evan, that's a key concept, right? Which is funny because this is the natural segue of the show, right? Next, we're going to cover key
Mhm.
concepts, and for those that's been around and seen this kind of deep dive into a class before, we'll go to the key concepts, and that's the key terms, words, anything you might need to know to understand some of the cards we talked about. We will talk about the offensive strengths and weaknesses. Then we'll talk about the defensive strengths and weaknesses of the specific class, followed by kind of a breakdown, key cards that you would see in most mech decks in some form of fashion, or you'll have a good reason not to play it because it just doesn't really fit that game plan. Followed by the actual breakdown of the heroes, and then we'll finish off with a couple Mythbusters and our final thoughts. So that's the breakdown. If you haven't been here and you're just joining us, this is the way we talk about the classes. It's conversation, and Trevor, like, you want to start off with a first concept, a key concept?
Yeah. No, the first one, probably the most important, is boost. This is something pretty much all the good mechs use this mechanic, I think, where whenever you play an attack action card that has the boost keyword, you can basically mill the top card of your deck, it'll get banished, and if it is a Mechanologist card, the attack will have go again. So essentially, we alluded to it earlier. Nice. If your entire deck is mech cards, you'll never miss, so every boost card has go again inherently. But yeah, it's like the good boost cards, like 0 to 60, Zipper Hit, Throttle, are pretty overrated because a 0 for 4 go again, like guaranteed, is just a great card that blocks for 3. So that's kind of the advantage that you're going to be pushing when you're doing mech, is using these kind of big attacks with basically natural go again.
So I will say, yeah, I had Lubricate pulled up there for when we transitioned into February's card overlay, but for some reason, Ghost in the Machine, I kid you not, it would not switch to the other card I clicked on. I kept on clicking on it,
That's
but
crazy.
it refused to switch from Lubricate. It's like we manifested it, guys.
Wait, would you say you needed to lubricate the machine for it to work?
Yeah.
We needed to
Probably
lubricate
sticky.
the spear of the machine, sure.
That's right.
If you lubricate too much, things get sticky,
Yeah. That's I won't say what I thought about, but if you want to
I know
continue
what
on
you thought about.
if you want to think about the
Anyway.
next key concept, some of my statements can be very galvanizing. Is that a stretch? Right?
Yeah.
So tell us what when you think galvanized, because this is a key card I've seen, especially recently with some of the newer pirate cards, pirate/mech cards that came out.
Galvanize what came out in Bright Lights, right? As a first time. Yeah. I mean, generally it accompanies cards that only block for 2, with the idea of if you block with it, you have the opportunity to destroy one of your items, which is a permanent on the board. And if you do so, then you get some sort of bonus. So during Bright Lights, it was mainly just extra defense. But in High Seas, there were some that like create a golden cog or something, or some other kind of benefit aside from just defense. I can't really speak much about pre-High Seas, but it seems like Galvanize has gotten better after High Seas, just because of these golden cogs that kind of become useless once all of their steam counters have been used up.
But
yeah, we can talk specifically about like the cogs once we get to Puffin.
Yeah.
Overall, like, galvanizes basically, and maybe like we're jumping a bit, but one of the key concepts of mech is items, and we'll talk about some of the big items soon. Sometimes, unfortunately, these items no longer have any uses. So when an item doesn't have any uses, or when you think you can get better use out of it by activating a galvanize ability, they're pretty strong. You showed adaptive plating, which for the longest time was by far the best galvanized card in the game. But yeah, overall, a pretty decent mechanic, and it synergizes with some other mechanics we're about to talk about soon.
And my experience with mechs is, always, here they are playing a lot of items, usually off the top of the deck with -IO. I know we'll talk about that in a second. And so I know the mech class is a class that uses a lot of items pretty efficiently. I guess the most popular one, and one that recently got a reprint in the High Seas pack, was the boom grenade. And usually it's like, oh, bring this item in, off the top of the deck, and usually do additional damage. Um, and as Ning was saying, some of the items that we talk about would be kind of like those cogs, like the golden cog. Once it pretty much does its function, and even though this is a token, it's still a token cog item. So it really works with the galvanized. Because after you remove the steam counter, usually it's not sticking around another turn, right? Unless you have some way to
Yeah.
replenish it. So
I mean, this might be sort of important to go over because so there are essentially like two classes of items, right? There are like regular items, and then there are items with crank. So crank was a mechanic they created in Bright Lights, but beforehand there were a bunch of items where you kind of just play it and you basically just get an effect until either forever or just until the card says like, oh, this gets destroyed after how many uses, right? I think a big one is plasma purifier, I think, is one of the big items. Another big one being Teclo Pounder, right? Yeah, so we'll talk about sort of what we like to call pistol dash in a bit, but these were the original sort of items. They came in having like powerful abilities, or they came in with a number of steam counters on them and have like a limited number of uses. But yeah, so Teclo Pounder here, of course, you have 3 uses out of it, and then it's gone. So these were the OG items.
And I know, as far as certain crank mechanics that recently came out in the Dash IO deck, Cerebellum Processor is probably the one I know the crank mechanic from because a lot of DOs run it. And then they're able to, use this crank, move it to really gain the action point back and still continue on their turn. So,
right.
Yeah, maybe we should read crank because
Sure.
I think it's important to kind of understand how it works.
Let's maybe read the steam counter portion first, and then read crank after that.
Who wants to do that? So exciting. So crank. As this enters the arena, you may remove a steam counter from it. If you do, gain an action point. And then the steam counter is usually this enters the arena with 2 steam counters. At the start of your turn, destroy this unless you remove a steam counter from it. Usually if any item has a steam counter on it, it usually has an amount and some way to either remove a steam counter or at the beginning of turn you lose a steam counter. It will always explain the card on the card, as the meta lovingly quotes to me sometimes when I misplay my cards, but that's from what I understand the steam and crank mechanic. Usually goes hand in hand, but sometimes you might see them individually. Right? Did I pretty much cover that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, old items, like you just kind of play them and your turn is over. So crank is a pretty useful mechanic, as you can do that. You can just play it, your turn's over. Or if you want your turn to continue, you can crank it. The item doesn't stick around for as long, but on the flip side, like you still get to play your turn out. So very powerful mechanic.
And then as an aside, and shout out to Rob, he's our Teclo player, but there is a scrap mechanic in the keyword, a mech in the mech key house, and a lot of people don't use the scrap mechanic except for one hero that usually focuses on it. We'll read it. Scrap as an additional cost to play this. If you banish an item or equipment from your graveyard, usually you get some kind of benefit for scrapping your equipment or scrapping your cards. So just to mention it. So I think that's most of the key words or concepts. Do you want to move over to the offensive strengths and weaknesses of this class?
Yeah, I can start us off there. I mean, number one, first off, only class has access to lubricate. I mean, all-star card, banger art, instant.
What more needs to be said?
For real.
Honestly, I wish they gave this card the unlimited keyword, right?
Yeah. Yeah, think of how many cogs you could untap if you ran 60 lubricates, bro.
I don't know. Unlimited lubricate sounds way too powerful.
I don't even know why they say lubricate. It should be lubricant. Anyways, I knew I'd fit that pun in here somewhere. So, all right, kick us off with a couple of offensive strengths then, Trevor.
Yeah, Mechanologist has like the easiest access to go again, I feel, and action points. They have boost on basically all their cards. I mean, well, yeah, for the ones that I play. And then Achilles Accelerator is a really great card for just getting an action point, like whenever you need it, and like just works well for your turn. And then the other boots from the Dash.io deck, I forget what they're called, but you can banish 2 cards off your top of your deck and get 2 action points, which also pretty good. And then they also just have like very above rate attacks. Like you have the 0 to 60 zipper hit, throttle, fast and furious. They're all like 0 for 4 go again, 1 for 5 go again, 2 for 6 go again. And you can combine these with like a card like maximum velocity that we showed earlier, and just like come in for 10 after doing all of these above rate attacks previously.
Yeah.
So it's very strong.
And maximum velocity, man, this is a ball breaking card sometimes if you see them setting up for it. And you can see it, but it doesn't mean you can stop it. Because usually if you're boosting cards, they already set up their combo, and this is where you're saying the ability for mechs to get the go again and action points to do this. You're either blocking the smaller text that's boosting to get to this point, or the items usually have some kind of effect, and then they play this big old card. Truly is, fun gameplay. Yeah, so a whole bunch of access to go get action points, very above rate attacks. And is there a certain mech cards that every mechanologist kind of run? You said 0 to 60 was one of them, right? And that's because it's. Do they not run the 0 to 50, or do we not mention 0 to 50?
No, we don't run 0 to 50.
No.
Because it's just a 0 for 3 go again,
right?
Yeah. So you lose a card, right? There's no reason to hit a boost a card unneedlessly.
This feels like a bad ninja card, It's a 0-3 go again, but you lose a card from banishing it.
You could run a yellow 0 to 60, like instead. It's just better.
Yeah, the 0 to 60 and like zipper hit and even throttle, they're so above rate that even the yellows, and for 0 to 60, even like the blue C play, like this is such a strong card. So
I see what you mean, because you're still like even the 0 for 4, 1 for 5 with the boost mechanic, which why would you ever run the 0 for other one? I already forgot this mileage. Yeah. And you said zipper hit. What was the other one? The third one you mentioned that was above rate. So these are kind of like the basic cards you see in most mech decks as a core if they're using the boost mechanic a lot of times.
Yeah, maybe throttle, maybe not, but like I feel like zipper hit and 0 to 60 are pretty standard.
I mean, it's a 2-6-3. You can't go wrong with that, with a mechanic that does enable your gameplay. So
and boosting is quite powerful. Like even some of the support cards, I think Trevor mentioned Achilles Accelerator, but even the Heart, their legendary chess piece, Teklo Foundry Heart is insane because it is literally just on demand resources. So
this card is, and it's battle worn, which is When I think it's a win when I see mechs block with this card. I'm like, I'm finally getting them, and then I realize it's battle worn and I don't care. Right? So it's such a good card.
Yeah, like
super strong.
If they need one more resource, they always have it, no matter what. Yeah, so they're very good on offense. They even like some of their weapons are kind of insane too. Like I think Dio's weapon, what's it called again?
Symbiosis Shot.
Symbiosis Shot is literally a 0 for 2, which is kind of an insane rate compared to a lot of other decks. Like we kept talking about how like a 1 card 4 is an insane, and it's like a 0 card 2. And it's not even once per turn. So if you have a bunch of action points, you swing this as many times as you have action points. So Symbiosis Shot is insane. I think their weapons are very good with like action points. They very rarely have once per turn. I think Teklo Plasma Pistol, which currently has LL'd unfortunately, but it was for the longest time just an extremely powerful card.
Was this the weapon that was this the weapon that was attached to -IE?
Yeah,
it is. Yeah.
Okay.
So you can't play this one anymore, but as a resource, you can swing for 2, and it's not once per turn. So as long as you have action points and resources, you can just keep doing this. So
gotcha. So they have great weapons, and then you mentioned earlier interactable effects. I was played with this a little bit as far as being forced to block with certain equipment, being forced to block with certain cards from hand if they had certain triggers on the field. What was a card that came to mind when you
Big one
mentioned
is Pulse Wave Harpoon, probably.
Oh yeah,
Or
that's the one.
Yeah, Pulse Wave Harpoon and I think T-Bone are the ones that
T-Bone
force
is
blocks.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So is this what you were meaning when you were saying that sometimes mechs have unattackable effects with your opponent?
Did I say that?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it
Oh,
was you.
yeah. This is definitely what I was thinking of. Like Pulse Wave, like you can watch them like boost twice and then play this, but like you're gonna be losing a card from your hand.
Yeah.
You know, there's not really too much you can do there for most classes anyway. And then T-Bone, like stripping armor, could be you pretty much like have to bring like an armor piece you don't care about into the matchup, or at least like a battle worn. Because if you go in with like all blade break, like T-Bone is detrimental. Like every single one is gonna hurt.
Yeah, I can see that. And is this T-Bone? Is this one you run a rainbow on because of the equipment, or do you just run the reds and blues?
It's kind of like meta dependent. I've seen it like come in and out while I've been playing. Sometimes people will just run like 3 reds just because like 0 for 3 go again is
Yeah.
fine with
Yeah,
like
block 3.
upside.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like if there's like a lot, like when Zen was really big, he was running like 4 blade break equipment. We were running 9, like because you could just like bully them like on turn 0. Like you get like a traverse the universe block like super early. It's like crazy, like before they even transcend.
That's great. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of Mech's, because like one of Mech's offensive identities is they force a lot of equipment blocks. They're very good at like destroying equipment. I think other than that, Mech also interacts unsurprisingly with items a lot. So there are cards like Heist, they're very and the Jolly Bludger. They're very good at stealing items from your opponent. So those are the two kind of big negative effects they have on their opponent, right? Like you can force equipment blocks, you can steal items.
That's great. So what's some offensive weaknesses they have?
I had put down that I know we just talked about like a lot of on hits and kind of disruption stuff, but it's really just like Pulse Wave, I feel, and like Boom Grenade are like the big ones that you're gonna have. Heist as well, but I think it's kind of a combination.
They're kind of niche, right?
Yeah, they're a little that's a good word for it. And then like it's also you pair it with the fact that the class doesn't have like any attack reactions at all. So all the damage is like very face up and like very forward, I guess. So it's pretty easy to play around. Like if you have the defense reaction on like the Heist or I don't know, like to block out like a Boom Grenade, like you're pretty certain like it's just not going to hit. Like if you can block it out initially.
Yeah, and I feel like even with Boom Grenade, usually if you do block out the chain like you're saying, it's not really going to land the effects, and even if it does, it's just damage at that point. In the early part of the game, it's not terrible, and toward the end, yeah, sure, it's really is backbreaking sometimes. But I would hate more for me to force to use my equipment at the time where you shouldn't be using your equipment. So I feel like that underactable thing, if that's all you got, well, I know we'll talk when we get to like the Rune Blades, the Earth Heroes. They have the Plounder and the other cards, so but they have a lot more of those. So
yeah,
I think the big like the elephant in the room for offensive weaknesses has to be boost, right? Boost is like one of the big strengths, but we glossed over it. Whenever you boost, you're getting rid of cards from your deck. So a very easy strategy for more control-oriented decks is if you just keep blocking out boost-based decks, they will eventually just deck themselves. So all these super powerful cards, the reason that you're playing this hero are also making you lose.
It's what's killing you.
It is what is killing you, yeah.
All right. So boost is both a offensive strength and an offensive weakness because it is an enabler, but sometimes it enables you to the point where you just kill yourself. Is that kind of like the balancing act here?
Yeah. I think like Thomas, one of our locals, said something like I thought was pretty smart. Is like Mech has like really good like damage output, but it's actually kind of bad if you look at it like damage per card. Because like Zipper, when you do like 0 to 60, you're using 2 cards to send 4 essentially with Go Again. And like in the short term, it's great, but in the long term, not so great. So if you're going to be in a long game, you have to have a plan.
Yeah, that's a great identity for a class.
Yeah.
As far as they're the only ones that actually uses the mechanic to the full effect. Yeah. Is there any other offensive weaknesses? Like, I know sometimes when you boost, like I always pray. Like I don't know what some of the mech cards do, but I love it when a player will boost away a good card and they're like, "Oh, dang, I needed that card." I was like,
Yeah.
"Great, screw you."
Mhm.
I mean, to be honest, that is also a weakness, right?
Right.
Because we talked about like Max V, and Max V is like one of the most efficient cards at dealing damage, like that Mech has. And if you boost away all your Max Vs against somebody who's trying to fatigue you, you probably just lose, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
Essentially, yeah.
Does that happen a lot as far as just boosting away your max Vs?
It depends. Like if you were playing Dio and you could look at the top card of your deck and you knew it was going to be a long game, the tech that people were on was running what's the card? It lets you opt 5 times.
Yeah, I know what you're talking
Optical
about.
monocle.
Yeah, optical monocle. You would play that. So like Dio, you just look at the top deck card of your deck, and if you see Max V, you just like opt into the bottom, and then like you can boost safely again. So you just have them for later.
Interesting.
Yeah, which was like pretty effective, I think.
You know, Tommy, Siblings in Cardboard Cast, if you ever look at their intro, his icon is the Dash Inventor Extraordinaire icon.
Yeah.
And the reason why is he started out on Dash IE, and he was the first one I've seen with Dash IO that played Optical Monocle. But then again, I know me and you, Trevor, we haven't really played a lot of stuff like that. So you might have been running this earlier too. But
I was probably running it because he was running it. He plays a lot more. Yeah.
Right. Oh, you mean he didn't get the inspiration from you?
Probably not, dude. I had that deck.
So, all right.
Tommy's a cooker, man.
Yeah.
That boy cooks some crazy, awesome stuff.
Yeah. So, okay. So you can get rid of a lot of the important cards for your game plan. And as you were saying, Evan, boosting does cost 2 cards regardless, right? It's the card you're playing and then the card you lose.
Yeah.
Now, Ning, I know you were interested in playing Mech and you're interested in playing Dash IO. You obviously know about this mechanic. This doesn't scare you at all as far as like, I would be afraid to lose him.
Will. Why do you think I haven't played this deck? What are you talking about?
What if he boosts away Corsham? What
am I supposed to do? Elemental Mechanologist. Let's make it happen.
I think that's another offensive weakness we can kind of talk about. So, I mean, not every... We're talking a lot about boost. Not every Mech card is a boost card, but I'm going to be real here. Don't have too many great non-boost cards, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think in CC, there are some really powerful non-boost cards, but they're all tied to other mechanics, right? Like, there's nothing like, this is generically good, and this is not a boost card that, like, everybody wants, right?
It's fair. All right. So moving on to the defensive strengths then. Like, what's a few of the defensive strengths?
They got that thick armor, boy.
Yep.
Like, are you talking about the actual equipment suite or the actual defensive value on their cards?
Both actually, funnily enough. Like, boost cards block extremely well. Like, Mech as a class has a lot of 3 blocks. Like, every boost card, with the exception of 1, blocks for 3, which is kind of insane. So
I gotta ask, what's the exception? Right?
I think Steel Street Hoons.
Yeah, Steel Street Hoons, which is a bad card. So
it's Galvin.
But it has a lot of bros in there. Look at that.
But yeah, so
Steel Street Heroes.
Yeah, their deck blocks particularly well, and also their armor suite is quite good. We talked about Teclofandry Heart blocking for 2 with Battle Worn. That's kind of insane. They get the Galvanize. What's it called again, Trevor?
Adaptive plating.
Yeah, they get adaptive plating, which technically is like a 3 block. And then, of course, they get all the generic helms, which are 2 blocks. So it's like, yeah, Mech can block a lot on any given turn. So that's a pretty big defensive strength.
Yeah. Cute thing now is with the Tinker Rings, you can block with that and then immediately galvanize the thing for like 5 block on armor.
I guess you trigger the hands first, and then that creates it, and then interesting.
And then, so that's some of the defensive strengths. What are some of the defensive weaknesses?
Sometimes you just get hands with only items, I assume, which means you can't block at all.
Yeah, items don't block.
Yeah.
That's items do block.
Is there not a single item that blocks in this game?
There shouldn't be.
Not
I
yet.
don't think so.
Huh. Alright.
Well, you do have items that have like, what is it, ward, right? But you can't necessarily block with it from your hand.
From your hand, yeah.
Yeah.
It would have to
I think-
already exist on the board, or you have to do the dash IO thing where you just sneak it in from the top of your deck.
That's true. I think another big defensive weakness, and this is once again going back to boost. If your opponent is boosting, that means that they're playing their entire deck is mech cards. Mech does not have any defense reactions. And that's like a really, really big deal. So if you have an attack reaction, you are basically guaranteed, if your opponent is playing boost, that the damage will go through, right?
Mhm.
So are they very pummable? Is that kind of like
They
like-
are very
Yeah.
pummelable. You are correct.
And Assassin is a very, very tough matchup. Mech
Yes.
hates to be disrupted, and then you can't run defense reactions. So it's a pretty bad combo.
Yeah, and there's a lot of assassins out there, but I also see that there's still a lot of dash IOs and a lot of puffins out there still. Trevor, I know you were on
Mhm.
puffin for a while.
Yeah.
Did you not have a good time against assassins, or was it just pretty much player skill and you knew your cards better than they knew their cards at that time? Is that like, or is assassins favored, or is it just like a
I
50-50?
think Assassins are favored. I don't know if I've played against any Assassins on Puffin because I've really just played around armories.
Okay.
I feel like it would be pretty tough. I talked with Lorenz, Andrew, a little bit about it, and he said it might not be terrible just because you can run the 9 soup ups and you can galvanize, so it would be blocking a lot, and you can like function off 2-card hands. But I don't have any like personal experience. I can't. Maybe I have, but I really don't remember.
I mean,
Gotcha.
that's the big on defenses, because I played Azalea, which is a very disruptive hero, against like Trevor, for instance. Even though Mech like boost cards block well, Mechs do not want to block because they are, for the most part, a lot of the boost heroes are very like hyper offensive, like I want to keep my whole hand and just go. Like that's how Dio works. And that's where the defensive strength of having like good blocking equipment comes in. You get like one turn of saying like, hey, I can ignore your entire hand. You have disruption. Here, have equipment. They get like one time to do that, and some mechs like Dio is so fast that's all they need is that one turn.
So if you see a mech start blocking with a lot of their equipment, should you like tighten up your asshole because you know it's coming the next turn? Is that kind of like the expectation? Like you know something's after you because they're
I'd
using their
probably
equipment
word it a bit differently than that. But yeah.
Would you? That's crazy.
But get ready, I suppose.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know, that foot's about to come, right? So you got
Yeah,
you
but
gotta, like,
here's the issue. I'm not playing a mech. You know, I don't
Oh.
get the lubricate to help with that.
maybe that's why they made the card. So any
It's not
other?
for you, it's for your opponent.
I mean, some people might like it like scurvy, right? What's some
Oh,
of the
no.
is there any other defensive weaknesses that we covered before we move on to some of the key cards? I know we talked a lot about them, but
Mm,
I guess one of the strengths that I forgot to mention is they're good against arcane damage. Like they've got a lot of arcane barrier equipments. They've got a lot of like arcane damage prevention. So
what's the arcane barrier equipment? I'm trying to remember. Adaptive dissolver.
Dissolver, yeah.
they've got a
But they have a whole suite, right? They have like
set.
the Viz.
yeah, they got
headpiece.
Visitronic, the AB2, and then they've got the
Oh
Achilles.
yeah.
Achilles accelerator. So
Yeah, and a lot of them just run Achilles, well, Dio, and maybe probably.
and they've got that new arm piece from the Hunted. Do you remember what that one's called, Trevor?
Misfire Dampener.
Yep.
So I guess against a lot of the rampant wizards out there, like let's say Kano when he rises up, I know he just made a recent top 8. Does he not like seeing a very fast, Dio that uses a lot of the AB suite and as far as equipment goes?
Yeah, Dio is like Kano's worst matchup, probably, or one of them at least.
Yeah, I know a lot of people said it's Prism, but like I never thought
No,
that.
It
like,
is Prism.
Dio's
It
a
is.
close
I
second.
misspoke.
Okay. Prism then
but
Dio,
it's very
right?
It feels very good for the Dio player. It's definitely not like
Gotcha.
unlosable, but like the Dio is definitely favored.
Yeah, because I would assume that even though Kano is very defensive by nature, right? You still got a lot of the attacks coming through, and then you're also able to stop their big turns from firing off. So.
Yeah.
So I know we talked a lot about the key cards already, from max velocity. I don't know why I stumbled on that velocity word, with being one of the key cards. Is there any other ones? I know you mentioned the 0 to 60s, the Fast and the Furious Super Hits, the autos. We mentioned the boom grenades when we were talking about the items. Is there any other ones that we should talk about as far as specialties go or specializations?
Yeah, Dash has some really, really good ones. Spark of Genius and Core are very, very strong.
Yeah.
I
I
remember
mean,
this
we
card.
can get to some of these because one of the weird things about Mech is I think like the power cards for each of the heroes is vastly different, right? So we can sort of talk about them once we go over each of the individual heroes.
I think that
Okay.
makes
Yeah,
sense.
I do agree that like Spark is
then-
kind of very strong.
I'm still traumatized from null time zone.
Oh yeah, no, time's really good.
I'm surprised we could put that here because I remember when this card first came out, me and another person in our meta, I will not name, they were down on this card, but I really like this card just because it really freaks people up, right? If you're
Yeah.
not careful. I was like, why wouldn't you play a playset of these or at least have them in your sideboard, right? Because I mean, Ning, you can tell us all about your experience again with your calling the chi.
Don't make me relive it. Don't.
I mean, I wouldn't call this like a power card. It is a
Yeah.
very strong like defense, like a sideboard card. Like it was made for chi. So part of the misspell was kind of terrorizing the meta. You play this, you name chi. Your opponent can't pitch chi. So like they literally have a no block in hand that all it does is pitch, and they can't pitch it. So
And I will give a shout out to one of our locals, Aaron Cutbirth. Really well known, really high ranking mech player. He plays fairly well day twos consistently. But I find like null time zone in an experienced player's hand is worlds different than a new player using null time zone. They're usually fishing through the deck and looking through the cards that might be the most common. But an experienced player knows the card that's going to mess them up the next couple turns, and this really just stops that, right? So I think a more experienced player will grow into null time zone to use its full effect. At least that's my experience. You guys can tell me if I'm incorrect here, but Aaron, when he uses his card on me, it hurts every time. And if he doesn't know, then he'll just look at my graveyard. It's okay. I know every deck plays this card. Let me call it. Right? I don't see any of them there, and I'm like, well, I got two in my hand, so this sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. No, if you're a good mech player, should know like the base card you should call, right? Like if you're going in with like, haven't seen too much stuff in the grave.
yeah.
And then the big thing about this is not all like bad. You could play the named card from Arsenal. So it's not, that's the text that sometimes people don't read and they miss out on. But if you have it in hand, you can't pitch it, you can't play it, but you can certainly arsenal it and carry it on to the next turn. It might disrupt some of your play, but at least it's not a unplayable card.
Yeah.
And I think, Ning, you mentioned this time, with the chi when they called it, maybe at that time you just arsenal that chi and, get some way to get rid of it with another card effect later.
Yeah. Another card that I don't play Mechanologist, but I like to have these honorable mentions is a Signal Jammer, which is like Warmongers at home.
Oh, interesting.
Signal Jammer is cool.
Very good.
Yeah, Mech has a lot of like weird one-off items, kind of like this, where it's
and that's why I was like, when I looked at Mechanologist, I was like, oh, this seems like a really fun or very cool class, but just very with all the things and like having to play perfectly because you're boosting away everything and doing all the things. It's relatively intimidating to figure out, how do you play it well?
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Then I know we mentioned, as an honorable mention, High Octane.
Yeah, rest in peace.
Yeah.
This one died so we could get Cerebellum.
Was it worth it?
Probably not.
Maxx.
High Octane, yeah, Maxx
out
died because of that. But High Octane is kind of like the only card that I would consider like outside of like some of the boost cards we mentioned, like a staple among like pretty much all mechs for the most part.
Yeah.
But it was far too powerful in combination with Cerebellum. So
So this is banned. I don't know if we said that.
Yeah, so High Octane banned. It's like, it seemed like they targeted Maxx more than other heroes. Just like Cashin targeted my boy Olympia more. I feel like they just took away his one card that made him playable. No, but we can talk about the different heroes now. I know this one, we're starting off with a person that just living legend, got the final few points, limped over the finish line. Dash Defender Extraordinaire. She was the original hero, right? You said Dio came out in high
in bright lights.
Bright lights.
Yeah, I don't know why I was about to say high bright lights.
Yeah,
Like,
so Dash IE was the OG hero. She
mhm.
essentially starts the game with one of her items in play, which
And
is
can
insanely powerful.
I mentioned
Yeah.
she's the original Pokemon trainer? You see the Pokeball up here? Anyways, go on, Evan.
Yep. And she's kind of like an interesting hero because she sort of has like two different ways to play. We talked about boosting, and she did have like a boost slant, but you could also play her as what a lot of people like to call slab dash, which is you don't actually play the boost cards, you play a defensive game, and then there are a bunch of items that can give your pistol go again or +1 power. I forget the go again one. It's plasma purifier, which gives +1. Do you guys remember the go again?
Was it the induction chamber? Is that?
Induction chamber, yes.
I
Thank
remember
you.
there's a combo. Yeah.
Yes. So the combo is you start the game with like an induction chamber. You spend the entire game blocking out and playing more induction chambers and more plasma purifiers. And then in the late game, you just have like an unstoppable like 2-card hand where you basically shoot your Tecloplasma pistol for 4 damage, go again like 3 times every turn. And there's nothing your opponent can do because like all the pieces are on board, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, it was a very powerful deck. There's even like decks where it's like you can do both. Like you can play like an aggro boost deck. And then if your opponent is playing like a fatigue deck like a guardian, you just put in all the pistol cards, right? And then you just play for that instead. So
Yeah. If you're on the aggro plan, you put in Teclo Pounder instead of one of the pistol buffs.
yes,
So you
Teclo
just
Pounder
like
was
get
the big
plus
one.
6 damage for free.
Yeah,
So
so,
that's
Dash
how-
by E, pretty cool.
Yeah.
And rip, but she made it over. So
Yeah.
I'm familiar more with anyone else the whole -IO or DO, lovingly called.
Yeah.
And I always see people looking at the top card of their deck. I'm like, hey, what are you doing? But it's part of her. It's on her hero power here. I know Tommy again. He said sometimes it's such a habit to look at the top of his card that he gets to actively remember when he goes to another hero not to do it.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah. I was playing Dio for a bit, and then we took a week off of CC to do heavy hitters draft. And the first thing I did was look at the top card of my deck.
So that's so
Yeah.
funny.
That's great.
But it seems like fun. So once per turn, you may play a mecha item with a cost 0 or 1 from the top of your deck, as it's an instant, and it costs an additional resource to play it. So whatever cost it is, it's one past that, right? So how's this hero work in the grand context of everything else? Like, since this is the main hero that people will be seeing most often, this and Puffin, I find. You know, Maxx and Tekla, they'll get honorable mention, but obviously they're not meta relevant. Sorry, Rob. I know you're a big Tekla fan, but it's the truth. So Dio and Puffin. So
Yeah.
with this, what are they actually doing?
Dio is like balls to the wall aggro. Your deck is going to be like 16 to 15 or 16 items, like basically a fourth of it. And then the rest is pretty much boost cards or like really, really powerful M's. And what you're going to be trying to do is like filter the top of your deck with the boost cards to like try and, because you can look at the top card of your deck every time you boost. And when you boost, it changes the top card of your deck. So you'll like boost, look at the top card, not what you want, boost again. You see like a boom grenade. You're going to pay the 1. You can like play it out instant speed. And then a lot of divergent lines here because we talked about like crank working where it gives you your action point back. If you do it at instant speed, you'll go up to 2 action points because you're not using your initial action point to then crank the second one. So you can have 2 action points.
So
And
anytime
then-
an item comes into play that has crank, since it's played as an instant, right?
Mhm.
You get the action point stays and you crank it, so you can now have 2 action points for the
Yeah.
That's
So
I
that's
get
like
it.
your first decision point is if like you even want to do that. Like if you need this crank or this second action point, or if you want to like keep it, you'll still have your like initial one, so it won't end your turn, but you could keep it into your next turn. So you can like keep this boom grenade around like for the next turn. Yeah. But she makes really good use of the specializations that we skipped out over. Like Spark of Genius is kind of insane in her.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
you know, Aaron playing this card against me.
Right. So like ideally you play like some 0 cost boost card then you spark a genius. You find Cerebellum processors, kind of the go-to. It has 2 steam counters. You can crank it. When it enters, you crank it, so you get your action point back immediately. So you just tutored for like the best item in your deck, and then you're gonna draw a card because you've already boosted this turn.
And you're
So
from your deck too. So because you pulled the card
Yeah.
out of your deck, you have one
Mhm.
less item card in there, so you're not drawing non-blocks or cards you're going boost into the graveyard if you have the blind boost, and you're pulling it
Yeah.
directly into it. So I can see it.
Yeah, and it gets like even crazier because like if you started this turn with like an item off the top with dash, you
Mhm.
can just immediately crank that because you know you're gonna find your Cerebellum. You know you're gonna have 2 action points, so you're gonna get to draw like a second card off of
Mhm.
tapping that Cerebellum. So there's a lot of playlines in Dio. Like I
Yeah.
could probably go on for a while, but essentially you're gonna just be boosting a lot, playing a bunch of items off the top. Your end goal is really to just like hit them with like max fees and like tutor for them and like make that happen, and yeah, like just do big damage.
So you're talking about a very aggressive hero that
Mhm.
also is pretty much playing with a 5-card hand if you have Cerebellum out
Yeah.
most time, and they can look at the top card of their deck to kind of maximize their hero power and everything else. So it seems like a pretty strong combo. What's the
Mhm.
weakness on Dio?
She can break pretty easily because you are running like a fourth of your deck as no blocks, and like having multiple items in hand isn't good. You want to see them on the top of your deck. They really don't do much when you play them from hand. And then also, since you're running all those items, you don't block super well. So if someone comes at you with like disruption, you're really relying on your equipment to get around it. And then if like you run out of equipment because you've already used it, then it's gonna get a lot tougher. And then she's fatigable as well because you are boosting a ton. You're using Tekla Foundry Heart a ton. It's a very valid strategy to just block her out.
Do you so? And you guys can answer based off your experience. When you face down against the opposite side of a Dio, do you decide just to automatically try to fatigue her, or do you kill her, see how that's going, and then switch to the fatigue game plan later?
You
How
can't really
early?
switch.
So you have to decide it from the beginning. I'm going to try to fatigue this Dio.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
like certain like you'll know going into the matchup. Like Verdance, for instance, always fatigues.
Yeah.
But then like more aggro decks will not have the tools to fatigue. So I think we've talked about Dio in terms of like being an aggro deck. I want to emphasize Dio is like the aggro deck, right? Like I don't think outside of like Kanos that are super lucky, there are no faster aggro decks in the game than Dio. Like Dio is insanely fast. If you want to go fast, you play Dio.
How appropriate. All right. And then,
Yeah.
Ning, when you see a Dio across the many heroes you played, like from Uzuri to Syndra, like Syndra, you can't fatigue Dio, so you got to try to race her and pray, or like how's that work in your case?
I think, yeah, I mean, I think Syndra is just race and see what happens. With Uzuri, it's really weird because obviously you block and then you try to disrupt. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't because they'll try to block as minimally as they can and then boost. There are points though as Uzuri where I feel like I can't, and I think this is more player skill, where I feel like, oh, I can get a little bit more aggressive and then because of tempo or whatever, and it feels good. But then at some point, because Dio is so fast at what she does, she starts to catch back up, and then it's too late for me to realize, oh, she's running out of cards. She's got like 10 to 20 left. I should just block it out and call it a day. But again, I think that's just player skill for sure.
Goes
I think
back to what they were saying. Yeah.
Yeah. You either do it or you don't.
Yeah, disruption can also be part of like if you're forcing a Dio to block, not only is their attack less good, but they're also like blocking from hand that is fatiguing them, right?
Yeah. And like if they're blocking with cards, like they're not blocking with items. So if they had items in hand, those are staying in hand, and there's not much they can do with them. So like you're really like priced into not blocking because your turns are very bad when you do. And then there's also like a lot of cards that just straight counter her, like Erase Face. Like
Erase Face feels good.
So
Erase Face feels good. Shakedown feels good because generally there's a blue in there somewhere.
Yeah, Humble's always good. Weakest
Yeah,
link is
almost-
good too.
Weakest
Yeah.
link feels good. Yeah, so there's a lot of Azuri
Yeah.
tech into Dash IO for
Mhm.
sure.
So,
So it
with
definitely like, can level it.
Mhm.
with great aggro comes great, balancing, I guess,
Mhm.
on that side.
That's
of it.
right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's Flesh and Blood in general,
Yeah.
right? There's always some level of balance theoretically.
All right.
Theoretically.
Theoretically. So let's talk about Puffin. Okay, that was anticlimactic. I know we
And
can't
in
use this joke.
fairness, you cut out, so you
Yeah.
just said, "Let's talk
I-
about."
And then you didn't say anything.
Oh, let's talk about Puffin. And then we can't even make this joke anymore because they named the dang parrot for us. So
Mhm.
Puffin it is.
Yeah. I could probably talk about it. I've been playing Puffin for like last few month or so.
Oh, and before we talk about
What's up?
Puffin, I would like to say I know Rob. We talked about being tech low. He was on Dash IO, and he did 3-0 the Tuesday Armory several times with his Dash IO. So I know we mentioned Aaron because that was topical, but I do want to give shout out to Rob. He's took us several times with Dio. Anyways,
Hey, if we want to do that, we can also mention Tommy was the first one on the leaderboard at all for Dash IO.
oh, did not realize that. All right, back to Puffin.
Yeah. So Puffin, she came out in High Seas, Pirate Mechanologist. You can tap her to destroy a gold you control to create a golden cog. Golden cog is just an item that has crank on it, and there's one steam counter. That's it. You can use the cogs for other cards that we can go into later. But her second line of text is the second time you crank each turn, you get to draw a card. So Puffin runs like about this. Well, there's two lists for Puffin. I've been playing the boost Puffin that Aiden, the Canadian guy, has been having a lot of success with, and I like that version a lot. I haven't tried any of the pirate stuff. It seems like less mechanologist to me. You're more like just kind of trying to do like, I feel like you're just trying to be like bad gravy. Like you're trying to send like conquerors in, and then like the cog stuff is kind of like falling by the wayside, and I don't know. It doesn't really vibe with me. But
Yeah.
the boost Puffin I think is really fun. So you run like 10 to 13 copper cogs, and then like some boom grenades and backup protocols as like your item suite. And
Yeah, maybe real quick, looking at the cogs might help.
Yeah.
'Cause, cogs by
Well-
themselves, like if you're like, hey, what's a golden cog? Hey, what's a copper cog?
Yeah.
Cogs don't do anything.
And
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
been flashing on the
Important
screen when
context.
they've been mentioning it, but we can actually read the
Mhm.
copper cog and then we'll go to read the golden cog.
Well, the cogs don't really do. They just crank and that's it. Right?
Yeah.
So maybe like Palantir, for instance, might be a good one to read to sort of get the context of why you would want these.
Yeah. So we have these like big majestic cog payoffs like Palantir costs 2, comes in for 6, blocks 3. You have to block with an equipment if this attacks you, and then thrice per turn you can tap a cog, it gets +1, and if you do this ability 3 times, you get to destroy a defending card, which is like very, very, very strong. So like initially you might think like, oh, that just blows up my equipment, like that kind of sucks, but whatever. But this can blow up like any defending card. So if you block this with like an unmovable, and they haven't done the 9-3, made this 9, it'll blow that up, and you just went like -8. Like this thing like closes out games. Like it's very, very hard to block out. It's like almost always getting through. And then like if you pair this with something like a boom grenade that you already have in the field,
Or pummel.
like yeah, sure, man. Go on. But yeah, like very, very powerful.
Yeah.
Here's a fun question: if
What's
you 2-3 turns in a row you draw this, do you use it all up at the beginning of the game, or do you try to pitch it away to save it for later?
I don't know. I guess it depends. Like if you could, it depends like what else you drew, because I would be thinking about like how many cogs I have. Like if I could guarantee I have 3 cogs like every time I play this, I would do it 3 turns in a row just to like get the damage in and like blow stuff up.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the interesting things about Puffin is because the boost Puffin, because boost Puffin is kind of like the default at the moment. Not a lot of people are playing non-boost right now, but boost Puffin and Dio are very similar.
Yeah.
Though Puffin is like way slower, but has like way more like has a way better long game, right?
Yeah. Like something I've been enjoying a lot about Puffin is like your off turns in Dio felt terrible because like if you drew like 2 boom grenades, it's like play one, like arsenal the other, like pass or whatever. But like in Puffin, you can like, well, maybe that's a bad example. You can play like one and then like activate her ability to like get a second crank, activate Polycranka, and you draw a card. So you can like kind of like fix hands, and then also you're running all these copper cogs, so you can play them, and the blue ones will stick around for like a turn or two. So you're kind of like getting this copper cog that you can use for later. And I don't think we've talked about her weapon, but Spitfire is usually what you run here, which is similar to Symbiosis Shot, but it's just 0 for 2, like pretty much every turn. Could be 3 if you just have extra cogs on the ground, so it's very versatile.
And, you know, the consistent damage, the way you played your Puffin against me, the several times you played, but the Spitfire coming in at the end just hurt so much because it really is a free attack as long as you tap this and a cog you control. That's good.
Yeah. No,
we should talk about Polycranka because I don't think we mentioned it, but this is usually attached to Puffin. There's no reason why you wouldn't play Polycranka. And this is a free crank mechanic for her, so she can have even a kind of a third subtext with Polycranka saying once per turn or once per game you could draw a card at will, right? On your turn, right? Isn't that kind of how it reads?
Kind of. You do have to have like one other way to crank, right? You need this gives you your second crank, but can really like fix a hand or like make a good hand better. Like I usually use it pretty loosely, like first opportunity where like I want to keep my foot on the gas.
I see what you did there. Anyways,
but yeah, no, like super strong. Like also just kind of like gains you a life at least in most matchups because it's kill on sight, so people do have to like send something into it.
Yeah, and I know usually unless you're a ninja, you don't have 1 damage attacks that you usually play. You're sending a, you know, whatever you can to kill Poly, so you don't get that second crank, because that's you don't want to get that value. LSS kind of builds these mechanics into the game where if they stay around for longer than a certain turn limit, then you get extra value on it, and that extra value could lose you the game. And so I feel like Polycranka is like you were saying, Trevor, kill on sight. You want to punt the sprint and make it KFC, you know? But all right.
I think Puffin also. I think we talked about Galvanize earlier. Galvanize is pretty like mediocre in other heroes, but Soup Up is what, like a 9 of in Puffin?
Yeah, like 9 or 6.
No kidding.
Yeah, Soup Up's really good. Like you have so many just random hogs. Like this is a 4 block most of the time, and it's very easy to be a 0 for 4 go again. So.
And then I know, Trevor, you almost lost the game to me, but you were like, "Oh, I hate Golden Skyward, and I'm gonna take these out." He didn't really sound like that. I'm just like, you know, building it up, but then he killed me with this thing.
Yeah, I was like kind of salty. I drew it at like when I just like didn't have any cogs, and I was like stubborn, so I didn't block with it, and I just sat in my arsenal for like 3 turns, and I was like,
"Oh, that's funny."
Yeah.
And I was like, the whole 3 turns he's bitching about how much Golden Sky just sucks, right?
A little. It's a good card. I've come back around. It's nice.
Well, after he killed me, I'm glad my blood is the one that sprung forth. But, you know, but yeah. So Puffin seems like very similar to Dio, but a lot of the mechanics that you guys mentioned, the galvanize plus the crank mechanics, makes her a little bit less polarizing as some of the effects go. Like Dio, when she has a really good turn, she accelerates super good, super high. When she has a brick turn, is bad, right?
Yeah,
but Puffin,
she folds a little bit less to like the swingier hands, I think, which I like a lot.
All right. Well, let's talk about the OG bad boy from not High Seas, but from
Bright Light.
Boston.
I was
talking about Maxx.
I was talking about Maxx. Right.
Oh, you meant bad boy as in thematically, not bad boy as in. I'm sorry, Rob.
He plays him though. I mean, you know, I would say he's probably the best Tech-Lavossen player I've ever played against. Right.
He is also the best
Tech-Lavossen player you've ever played against.
He's the best Tech-Lavossen player I know. Let me put it that way.
Is he also the worst one that you played against, Will?
Well, I play against myself with my deck, so I'm pretty much the worst Tech-Lavossen player in this meta. That deck's hard to play.
Playing with himself.
Well, right. Let's revise that. I'm talking about cards against cards here. Maxx the Hype Nitro. So he recently got some help with the Armory deck. Did it help him, fellas?
Nope.
Not at all.
Won't. So once per turn action, pay 2 resources. Create a Hyperdriver token with 2 Steam counters. Activate this only if you boosted this turn. and he has hyperdrivers you control get crank. So now hyperdrivers is a token, isn't it? But it's also a card you could
It's also Rainbow.
cast. Yeah.
Yeah, from Dynasty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for the most part, we can ignore the actual card itself because for the most part, the way you're making these hyperdrivers is through Max's ability. I think the big one, because on their own, you look at a hyperdriver, it gains you some resources. It's not too impressive. The big card we need to talk about, of course, is Construct Nitro Mechanoid. I think Maxx is nothing without Construct Nitro Mechanoid. Yeah, so essentially, if you have 3 hyperdrivers out and you have all your equipment and your weapon is Mech, you transform all of that into...
I don't know how to go to the opposite side of this card.
Oh, okay.
That's unlucky.
I was trying to figure it out, man, but I was like, there's got to be a same way to flip it, but I don't know how to flip
Damn.
it. So,
well,
is there a way to read it?
essentially, we can just read it from memory, I guess. It's a very, very powerful weapon equipment thing, hybrid. It has 5 block with temper, meaning you can block for a total of 15 with it, which is insane. And essentially, you can get rid of one of the cards that you've placed under it. And the cards you've placed under it are the 3 hyperdrivers, all your equipment, and your weapon. So you can get rid of one of those cards in order to swing for 6 with overpower. Back in the day, this was incredibly powerful with high octane because high octane gave you a bunch of action points and the attack was not once per turn. So you high octane, you get 4 action points. You swing 6 overpower 4 times.
And I'm seeing it's 5 overpower, Evan, but pretty good memory as far as everything else goes.
Well, no, it's... Well, what's the card called, Trevor?
I don't know. I forget.
Okay.
It's the Mech arms piece, and if it goes...
Yeah, there's a Mech arms piece that makes it 6 overpower.
Is like...
Galvanic
something.
Bender?
No,
Yeah,
that's
Bender, I
else.
think.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, can you...
Yeah, there you
that-
go. So, yeah. So this card, if this is one of the equipment pieces you use, it actually becomes 6. So,
So if you're doing that, you can pretty much look at their equipment suite and say, oh, Galvanic Binder, he's on a natural mech build.
yeah.
Yeah.
And to be completely frank, they tried to give Maxx some other cards in the armory deck. They didn't do a very good job, I'll admit. Oh, what a cute cat.
Baby.
But, so... Yeah, the Construct Nitro Mechanoid is sort of the way you go about it. And unfortunately, since High Octane has left, Maxx is a lot worse. So hopefully they'll give Maxx something that makes all that better again.
Sorry, guys. The cat's going crazy over here. But, yeah. Okay, so that makes sense why it's 6. And it is a powerful card. I remember when they get it off, it's really, because of the block mechanic alone with the temper, is super good.
Yeah,
and the overpower attack. So, I mean, people don't play a lot of Maxx right now. Is it because of the recent nerfs, not nerfs, but the ban list that came out that kind of restricted, like, I know you said the high octane being removed kind of really hurt Max's game plan. Was that because it affected his Nitro Mechanoid game plan?
Yeah, pretty much. Because that was how he closed out games, like, pretty much. Like, yeah.
All right, let's talk about our boy, the smart man himself, the genius behind everything, Teklovasen.
It would have been extra funny if you chose the wrong tech then. Because
the professor from Telornia Community College.
Yeah.
So we are talking about the Steam Magnet and the Mecro Potent. We're going to kind of group them together, I guess, because that's kind of his game plan, right? Is to play...
Yeah, he's got a similar game plan to Maxx. Maxx is all about, like, building up 3 hyperdrivers and becoming the Nitro Mechanoid. He is building a set of Evo equipment and becoming the Mecropotents. And maybe we should explain Evos, because that's kind of important to his game plan.
So, yeah, the thing about Evos is, we didn't mention it earlier as a key concept, because really, Teklovasen is one of the only mechs that uses it. And he usually generally uses the same ones throughout his whole game plan, and they have an effect. Usually you start off with the base equipment, and sorry, my cat is going insane right now. They usually start off with the base equipment and then transform, and every time you play a Evo thing on top of the equipment, it will always say on the bottom of the card Evo base chest, Evo base head. So if you have the base chest equipped, so you can keep on transforming over your other equipment, right? So if you played Evo Steel processor out and had it equipped, you can play another one on top of it, and it really will get rid of all the negative tokens on it since it's transforming into a new chess piece. And as it does, it also has an ability on the card itself. Like when this transforms from or into an Evo with a different name, you gain a benefit. And this has, I think the head is intellect. One you see here is resources. The boots are the action points. And I'm trying to remember what the arms do, but it has been a while.
It lets you like put cards fifth from
That's
the
right.
two or something.
Huh.
Yeah, the
But-
cards back into the fifth from the top of your deck.
Yeah, the important thing here is just, I guess Teklovossen is the other hero outside of Slab Dash that isn't like boost based. It can be boost based. You can boost with him, but often enough you don't want to. So the way you play him is you basically like build up your Evos. Your Evos help you block since they have good block value. And then you play Singularity, I think is the card.
It is.
Which
Mhm.
costs a lot of resources and allows you to transform into the Mechropotence. So
Yeah.
once you become the Mechropotence, it's basically a new demi hero essentially, and it's insanely powerful, even more so than the Construct Nitro Mechanoid.
The issue I find with Tekla and the reason why he's so difficult is there's a lot of counter plays against his game plan. Plus, you have to block a lot. It's very easy to lose your items or your equipment. You can even get straight out destroyed with this. So it's very hard to set
Mhm.
this. And on top of that, this is not that easy to put out there because it still costs 6. You have to have all your equipment. You still have to have all your equipment active. And usually you'll have a base arms or a base equipment in all the slots. So it's pretty tricky to get off, and sometimes it just doesn't match up because you only get one singularity, and it's very hard to fish for it. And as you guys were saying, sometimes you boost it away. If you play boost, so anytime you
I
play
mean,
boost,
that's why he's not really a boost hero, is
yeah,
because you
Yeah.
can boost away your one of win con.
yeah,
But yeah,
you're
I
one
think
of a con.
unfortunately, like you're required to start the game with base equipment, and
Mhm.
all of those are really bad. They don't have block values, or they block one with blade break, and you don't want to block with them. So he has the worst equipment suite, ironically, in the game at the start of the game, and then all the evos that you play cost 4, which is kind
Yeah.
of insane. So even building up to get to singularity is really, really hard. And yeah, so Teklovossen unfortunately is not in a great spot. He's a pretty cool hero. Everybody wants to become Iron Man. That's
Yeah,
kind of what you're doing here. So
and he does have a really cool keyword that's really only associated with the amount of Evos he plays with, and that's like the Evo upgrade suites with a lot of these smaller cards. But he also has some that has really powerful effects. Give you an example, a Terminator tank, right? Where
Mhm.
if you have one or more Evos equipped, you get additional things on top of this card, even though it's high cost starting out. It's like what Evan's saying. So your early game plan, you're pretty much being the punching bag for any hero that's going against you while you're trying to maintain some kind of game state where you still can swing back hard enough. But sometimes you'll be opponents at 40 life versus your 20, and by the time you get everything shifting off, your also lost so much momentum. It's hard for you to come back. At least that's my experience with Tekla. He's the only mech hero I really know because I actually built the deck for him, and he's just not quite ready to come out yet.
Mhm. Yeah. He needs a little bit of help, but
Yeah.
it's cool. I like the concept a lot.
Love his identity on this. Like how we were saying the boost dash and the puff and dash, they have their separate identities in that mech, but this is definitely a different way of playing mech. And by all means, be like Rob. He has fun with this, right?
Yeah.
And he works with it, even though it's not a meta relevant deck and it loses against a lot of the meta heroes out there. Sometimes when he gets it off and he plays really clean, you'll learn your foundations. You'll lose a lot until you get to that good point. So I think that's all the heroes so far. So let me ask you guys a question. Your expert insight. What do you think separates a good mech player from a bad one? And what would be your recommendation for a new player to start with as far as the mech heroes go?
I think the most important thing is like remembering your threat density, like what's left in your deck, like especially when you're boosting, it's not like in super clear exactly. And like if you're this Dio, if you're on like this Dio like hyper aggro kind of stuff, you have to close out the game. Like you have to know like if you can push enough damage, like what your turns are going to be looking like. And I think if you're not really paying attention, like you can just miss that like you boosted like all your max Vs or something, you know, and then like you just lost like a lot of potential damage.
And then, how about the rest of you guys? What do you think separates the good Mech player from bad one?
Yep.
I mean that's true. Like currently, I mean we talked about how boost is like not every mech plays boost, but currently like Teklovossen is bad and Dash IE LL'd, so all the relevant mechs will be boosting. So what Trevor said is very accurate. So it's I think currently in the meta too, like if we go to what hero we would recommend, I think Dash IO, Dio as we call it, is currently the most meta relevant. She's doing quite good. And honestly, Mech is like a pretty good class for sort of a newer, more budget oriented player because it's actually relatively cheap compared to a lot of the other classes. Like when you're playing boost, like you're not playing any of the super expensive generics, right? And then like a lot of cards like the heart, the chess piece, that card's been reprinted to the ground, so it's actually quite cheap. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I think it's
no, if
like
you're
on
interested
average
in
like
Mech,
$20.
yeah. If you're interested in Mech, like it's not that bad of a class to actually pick up right now, to be honest.
Yeah, and
There's
I
also
said,
the armory deck.
yeah, the Maxx armory deck. So let's
The
say,
Dio Armory deck.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, that one.
well, the reason why I don't mention the Dio armory deck is it's very hard to find. Now we do have a local player that can probably sell it to you at MSRP, but it's still relatively hard to find a Dio deck.
I got one right. Wait, hold on. There it is. Right next to Trevor. I also have the Maxx one, but ignore that.
Well, you know, we like that product, so we support them, right? I kind of agree with you guys as far as the Dio / Puffin side of things. I think Puffin because it's more meta relevant right now. Let me rephrase that. Because with High Seas currently out, there's a lot more cards floating around for Puffin. But if you could get the Dio Armory deck, that's a great place to start if you're interested in Mech, right? How much would you pay for a Dio deck?
$40.
They're like crazy expensive. I didn't know they were like sold out.
Yeah.
They're hard to get.
Well, it's because
Yeah.
cerebellum processor. It's the main part of it. So
I mean, I think like last I checked, and maybe somebody can correct me, it was like $400 or $500 for like a tier 1, or not tier 1, but you know the like the best version of Dio, right? Like if you want to build with the best cards. Like,
Yeah, some of that's like Crown of Providence though.
yeah, so if you take out Crown, it's like $300, which like for Flesh and Blood standards, when assassins are spending like $1,200 on like a full deck, like $300 is quite a good price.
In fairness, that price has dropped since the Codex reprint.
Yeah,
That's
the assassin.
true.
Yeah, what a really good idea on LSS's part to do that. Yeah, so I do equate this to kind of like the illusionist or prison players. You just front up because illusionist is very specialized to that class. Same thing with the Mech cards. So same thing. Dio, Puffin, you can get them cheap. I think what separates a good player from a bad one on Mech is what you're saying, Trevor. Threat density. Keeping aware of it because you have to keep in mind your win cons. Very easy to lose sight of that as a new player, and very easy from my experience. And again, I don't play a lot of Mech, but what I see is very easy to fatigue yourself unless you actively know how you're going to kill your opponent, right? And keep that in mind. At least that's the experience I always say when I have trouble with closing out the games against a Mech player. Ning, do you want to have any insights into this before we kind of close it out?
Not too much insight. I'm just here for the ride on this one.
Well, you know, Ning are a professional shotgunner. So, and then a few Mythbusters. You could just block a Mech player to fatigue.
I think that one is specifically for a booster. You can block a booster to fatigue. I don't know if you can block a tech load to fatigue.
Yeah,
You
don't try
definitely
to.
cannot.
Yeah, don't do that
Yeah.
game plan. You're gonna have a bad time.
Even with like Dio though, like if you're not like a hyper defensive deck, you are not winning in fatigue.
Mm,
And good Dio players like will have answers to hyper fatigue.
mm,
So you're definitely going to want to be swinging at them at least
Mhm.
with some disruption. So
yeah.
Mhm.
It's a fine balance. Usually one card something, two cards something is what you're looking for with that, or at least a weapon to keep on pinning on pressure. I find is the most effective. So, and then we've talked about this, but to close it out, Mechanologist can't block well.
I think Mechanologist can block better ever since I guess Puffin came out with more galvanizing things. But overall, I mean, we mentioned what generally they block 3 except for items. So that's just an unfortunate hand.
Yeah.
Otherwise, yeah.
yeah, I mean they can block well. They don't want to block.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
But their armor blocked relatively well.
yeah, their armor is
So
very very strong. So
you're saying they block well once with their armor, and then after that, they really don't. They can block well. They just choose not to, or they shouldn't be blocking well, right? All right.
yeah, pretty much. At
And
least
then,
Dio, like Puffin's a bit different. So
yeah.
Mhm.
All right.
Puffin, you want to put in two adaptive dissolvers so you can move things around and equip evoke arms. You know, that's what you want to do.
that's what you were cooking, Nate.
Oh yeah. It's gonna be good. Item
Heck yeah.
Puffin is gonna be so good.
I'm excited.
Well, it could be like Mario fatigue, right? So hey, we be cooking on Tunic Counter Gamers. All right. So last thoughts or comments before we start closing this out.
Nothing for me.
It's a cool class.
I just need to play it.
Me too.
Well, once work kind of gets better for you, Ning, I'm sure you'll play more, right? So
That's the dream.
I won't. Ning and I are posers. Me especially.
Well, you've been busy recently too, you said. So, well,
That's true.
then as far as things go, well, that's a wrap on our Mechanologist breakdown. Proof that when you mix a little ingenuity with a lot of steam power, you get one of the most explosive playstyles of Flesh and Blood. For at least some of the heroes. Whether you're boosting like there's no tomorrow, setting up your tech-low contraptions for the perfect turn, or just living for that finish, remember, every crank, counter, and copper piece counts. If you need to contact us, my Discord is midnight_WI11. And until next time, remember, every turn is a decision, every decision is a story, and don't forget your damn Tunic Counter. Peace.
See you.